Minasan konnichiwa! Welcome to the Board Game Dojo's Import or Not series, where we take a look at games from Asia and let you know if they're worth your hard-earned money to import or not. Today we are looking at a game filled with cute dog meeples where you will be building a dog hotel. Sweet Dog Hotel, which is a tile placement game for 2 to 3 players released in 2022 by Smart Ape Games, who was also the publisher behind Crypto Collector, another video that we did before. Join us for a brief overview and our thoughts, and we'll let you know if this game is worth checking out. Sweet Dog Hotel is a game for 2 to 3 players in which players will try to amass as many points by building up the hotel here and running around the dog track out here. On your turn, you will have 4 steps to do. Step 1 is to simply choose a tile from the bottom row. Once you select a tile, you'll refill it immediately with the tile above it, and then refill this open spot with a tile from the bag. You may then choose somewhere on the board to place your tile that corresponds with the colored tile that you chose. So in this instance, I chose a blue tile, so I can place it in any of the open blue spots on the board. Where you choose to place the tile is important because based on the hotel that you put it in, will have a different paw print on there. And that's how many spots forward you'll move your dog around the outside of the board. So in this instance, I'm going to place it in this hotel here, and so I will move my dog forward 2 spots. I am playing the Dalmatian in this game because what other one would you choose? And in this instance, I will get to move forward, like I said, 2 spots. But be mindful that if another player is already on the spot in which you would land, you simply hop over them and go to the next spot. So in this instance, I wouldn't land here, I would land here. Step 3 is to take the item that is on the spot. In this case, it is a cookie token, represented by these orange cubes. Step 4 is the reservation or accommodation action. You get to choose whether you put a dog from your hand onto one of the reserve spaces on the board in the hotel. Note that you can only keep 1 on these reservation spaces at a time for your dog, or move a dog that was already placed from a turn before, so let's pretend that I already had that there. Move it from the reservation spot to an open hotel room, paying the cost on the tile. So in this case, it costs 3 to get my dog into that room, so I'll pay 3 off my board. Once this step is complete, it'll be the next player's turn. One thing to note is that this game works on the ratchet system, which means that the turn order is not determined in clockwise or counterclockwise order, it is who is the furthest behind on the track. So let's say that the border collie is all the way up here, and our turn order allows us to only go to here. We would get an extra bonus turn because we are the furthest behind on the track. And since we ended up next to the cafe tokens, this is a great chance to tell you about these cafes. You see those cookie tokens that I talked about earlier, these ones. If you have 3 of these, you can turn them in and open up a cafe somewhere on the board. These cafe tokens are going to be very, very useful in majorities that I'll explain in a moment. But they can be placed somewhere on the board, and you can immediately put one of your dogs from your hand onto the spot. The game ends when all of the tiles have been built, and you'll start to tally up your points. The first and most important thing you'll tally up is the majority in each hotel, which will be done individually. Majorities are computed by taking the number in the bottom right corner of each tile that somebody has moved into in that black. So this one is 6. You'll add up the sum of all this. So in this case, the Border Collie player has 11 and the Dalmatian player has 1. First place would be the Border Collie, so they get 8 points. Second place would be the Dalmatian, so they get 5 points. You'll do this for each hotel. The second thing you'll get points for is by going all the way around the board as quick as possible. The first player to come back to the start space gets 5 points, the second gets 3, and the third player gets 1 point. Another 3 points will be given for each cafe that you opened up during the game. You get 1 point for each pair of coins that you have left over at the end of the game. So this would be 3 points for the Dalmatian player. Finally, you have the public milestones that you will get points for if you successfully did them during the game. These will be different achievements like having a dog in 3 different blue hotel rooms, having a dog in each hotel, which is this one right here, or having 3 dogs in 1 hotel. You'll add up all of your points, and whoever has the most points wins. And that's a general overview of Sweet Dog Hotel. Now let me clean this thing up and tell you what we thought of it. So let's just start with the obvious here. Between the colors and the meeples, this game looks gorgeous. And in fact, the artist behind this game, Harasereb, had to put on their Twitter after this game sold out really quickly that they were fully booked on gigs. They couldn't do your board game too because so many people wanted them to do it for their games as well. That's a pretty good thing. And I mean, look at this. If you saw this at your local game store, would you not at least bring it off the shelf to see what it was? All right. That's it for the review, I think. We can be done there, right? Okay. I'm gonna sit down for this one. I am not a designer at all. I would make a terrible game designer, I think. I have utmost respect for game designers who are putting themselves out there, creating something new, something that people can enjoy. And most of the time, I'm the one enjoying them. I love games. So I try to choose my words carefully when I'm describing games. So believe me when I say that this game is just kind of boring. I was bored by it. My wife was bored by it. The people we played with were bored by it. Actually, maybe I have a better way to describe the feeling of why. This game kind of reminds me when after a while you're wanting to break up with somebody, but you just can't put your finger on why. There's nothing bad about it. They didn't do anything horrible to you. It's just a lot of little annoyances that build up over time to make it so that, you know what, maybe you're just not compatible. The first thing to point out is this rulebook. On our Crypto Collector video, we talked about that the rulebook was a disaster class. And this one is better, but there's still some things that are too ambiguous, and the examples that they chose to show weren't helpful at all. For example, there is one part of the rulebook that talks about how to go around the track. Now, this rule is all about that if there is another dog there, you can't go on the same spot. But in the native Japanese, this can be read as both you can't end on the same spot as a dog, so you need to jump over, or you just can't go on the same spot at all, you need to jump over. And what you see in the rulebook is that the person needs to go one space, but there's a dog one space in front of them, so they need to hop over. Well, this doesn't help at all because that would be illegal in both senses of the word. So it took us 2 plays in which we tried to do either one to figure out what was the correct way to play. And just so you know, it seems like in our opinion, the best way to play is that you can't go on the spot at all. So say that the dog is 1 in front of you and you need to move 2 spaces, well then you would actually move forward 3 spaces because you would skip the spot right in front of you. At least that's how we kind of figured that out. And speaking of going places, let's take a look at this board, you know, the thing you're going to be going around. Now, there are 2 spots in which you can open a cafe at. You'll start down here. So the first one is way up here, halfway through, and then the second one is back near the start. Now, here's the thing. To open a cafe, it takes 3 cookie tokens. But if you actually look closely between the start and this line, you will count that there were only 2 cookies that you could possibly get. The spot after it is where you're going to get a bulk of your cookies if you're able to get there first. So that means that once you get back down here, the cafe is easily gettable. But because of the way that the ratchet system works, only one person is going to be able to get that. Because while they're there, then other people are going to catch up and go past them. And this wouldn't really matter if it didn't drive us mad of why are there 3 cafe tiles in the bag? Because the first one, there's no way that we could get there. So then there's the second one, and then you have to go back up here and then back up here again. Then the thing is that you're going to probably make it around the board once, and then you're going to stop on your second time through probably right about here. So you're not even making it around the board twice. And this is a bit strange to us because the cafes are just such strong tiles that it can win you a majority if you place it right. And maybe that was the point. Maybe they needed to try to fine tune it so that it was harder to actually get it. Because if you're going to go for the cafe on the second go through, you have to give up basically everything else. But it actually just more makes us think that maybe there was some other iteration of this game in which it was easier to make it around the board more times. Yes, in the 3-player game more than the 2-player game, you're going to be skipping over people more often, but still, it's a little bit too much. And even if you told me, yes, Eric, actually, you are playing it wrong. You're supposed to get more cafe tiles than that. Okay. And Eric, we actually fixed the rulebook too, so that's not a problem anymore. Okay, cool. Actually, that isn't really the thing I think that throws me off of this game. The thing that throws me off about this game is that it just feels so repetitive. It feels so monotonous. Oftentimes in games, you do the same thing over and over again, but there's ways of hiding it to make the player not feel like they're doing the same thing. Maybe they're doing the same 4 steps, but different things happen when they do certain things. Like Yokohama, for example, one of my favorite games. Basically, you're putting your workers out, you move to a place, you do the action, it's the next person's turn in a general sense. Reductionist form of what you do in that game. But because the places do different things, you can go to the bank to get money, you can go to the fish market to get fish, you can go to the research laboratory to get more technology to get better at other things. It makes it seem like you're doing something different on your turn. This game has none of that. Your turns feel the same no matter what you're doing. You put a tile down on the board, it lets you move, you're probably either taking coins or putting a dog down in a hotel, and that's it. Next person's turn. Every turn feels the same, and this in turn makes every game feel the same. Yes, the 2-player game feels different than the 3-player game. The 3-player game is the better one. There's just more jostling for position. But still, the first game feels like the second game, which feels like the third game, which feels like the fourth game. And this, I think, is actually best exemplified by the milestones themselves, the achievements that you're supposed to work hard towards to get it. You pick one randomly from the start, right? So that should just inject some variability to the game, right? But really, not really. Because the difference is whether you want red or blue this game, and they're basically in the same spots on the board. Do you want green or yellow this game, and they're basically on the same spots on the board. D, in which you want to have a hotel that has 3 of your dogs, doesn't change at all. So 3 of the 4, right off the top of my head, are basically the exact same every game. It's an artificial variability, one that, yes, technically it is different, it doesn't actually feel different. And I don't want to ramble on too much. I think this game is, for lack of a better term, adequate. The art, well, that's exceptional, but the gameplay is just adequate. The variability is adequate. The replayability is adequate. There's nothing great here. There's nothing pulling me to actually come back to this game. Art is great. The meeples are great. But how much can they carry the rest of this game? Part of it too is that I am a graduate student, and so price is really important to me. That's why we always talk about it on Import or Not. I know some people believe that we shouldn't talk about price whatsoever because different people have different amounts of money, and so they're willing to spend different amounts of money on certain games. But for me, money is tight all the time, and I want to spend money on things that I love, that I will really, really enjoy and want to play over and over and over again. If this was a game in which I thought you would maybe love, and it was $20, great. I don't like it, but maybe you will. Spend that $20, go for it. But this is double that. This game is $40 for a game that we just find adequate. Not exceptional, not great in any way. And to me, yes, maybe that's just my viewpoint of what I want to spend my money on. I will absolutely concede that point, but I don't want to spend $40 on a game that is just okay. Maybe that's just me. When I talk about not liking in a game, I kind of check online to see if it's just me, so that I can tell you that other people have liked it. I did that for our Nana video. We didn't like it, but I told you that for some groups that we have heard love this game. And I have found maybe a couple reviews that actually like it. But on Bologe, which is the BGG of Japan, 25% of people rate this a 4, 25% of people rate this a 5, but then 25% of people rate it a 7. So half of people find this to be either below average or bang on average, and then some people find this to be above. But again, it's up to you whether or not you want to spend $40 to give this a try. And it's sold out everywhere, so you're going to have to give it a little bit of time. And maybe that ex-partner analogy works better than I originally thought, because maybe it's just that us in this game are just not compatible. Maybe I'm not the one that is going to give this game some love, but I'm sure somebody else out there will. And maybe it's you. Thank you so much for watching us today. ありがとうございました. Until next time. じゃあね.